Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Just let everybody start to join us, and we'll get started in just 1 second. Welcome. We are officially in May for our May webinar. Almost, surprisingly, almost June. Almost our June webinar. All right, everybody, we're going to get started. It is the top of the hour. Thank you all so much for joining us, and welcome to the Monarch Conservation webinar series. As I mentioned, it is May. We are working towards halfway through our Monarch Conservation webinar series. Today's webinar is Monarchs in Action, Youth-Led Conservation Projects and Initiatives. Our presenters today are Citlalli Mendoza, Vanessa Hernandez, and Kevin O'Toole from Morton East High School, and Rayna Lambert with the Girl Scouts of America in Trumbull County 4-H. My name is Alyssa Taylor. I'm a program coordinator with the Monarch Joint Venture, and I am joined behind the scenes by my coworker, Jenna Tots, who is the education coordinator. She'll be handling all of our tech issues if you have any. We want to give a big shout out and thank you to our sponsor, Reinvent Your Waste, for supporting our webinar series. We appreciate your support and your dedication to monarch conservation. If your company is interested, or if you are interested in supporting our monarch conservation webinar series, please feel free to email learn@monarchjointventure.org. Before we get started today, we do have a few community guidelines, helpful hints. If you're joining us today but did not pre-register for the webinar, we would like to count you for your attendance and also be able to send follow-up resources to you. So please email learn@monarchjointventure.org with your name, city, and state, and we'll make sure that you receive all of the follow-up information and the recording. This webinar itself, along with all of the other webinars, will be recorded today and posted on our website by Friday of this week. The entire Monarch webinar conservation series is free and available to watch, and it contains 10 years worth of monarch conservation webinars. So if you were looking for a particular topic, you missed one earlier this year, they are all there. Please feel free to explore. During the webinar today, we are going to be using the Q&A box found at the bottom of your screen. So we'll collect questions for our Q&A session at the end for our speakers. So please make sure to record those in the Q&A and not in the chat. It's a bit easier for us to keep track. And please use the reactions during the presentation. Our speakers cannot see you, even though you can see them. So they would love to be able to see those reactions and responses to their work and their efforts. So you can see those. Thank you for throwing them up there now. Perfect. We'd also like to remind you that if you need it and it is available to you, we have translated captions on this Zoom call. If you would like to add captions in a language other than English, just click on the arrow on captions and be sure to select the translate button and make sure that it is on and put on the choose your caption language, whatever your preference is. And finally, all of our webinar speakers represent their own viewpoints, which are not necessarily those of the Monarch Joint Venture. So we're really looking forward to this presentation today. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. So Citlalli Mendoza is a senior at Morton East High School. She started in the summer garden program as a volunteer 3 years ago, then became a junior leader, and in her third year became an intern leader. Throughout her internship, she worked with 4 other interns to decide what tasks had to be done in the garden. Tasks ranged from removing invasive plants to planting native plants to painting arches and bricks that show the species in the garden. And through these tasks, they were able to teach volunteers the importance of biodiversity. We also have Vanessa Hernandez joining us today. She's also a senior at Morton East High School and has been a part of the summer garden program for 3 years. She started off as a volunteer and a year later got the opportunity to lead a group of her own with a classmate. For the past 2 years, she has worked alongside Mr. O'Toole and other leaders to organize and plan summer garden program activities and priorities. Some of those activities included building an extension to the garden, increasing native species, and weeding out the invasive species. And then last but not least, we have Kevin O'Toole, or Mr. O'Toole, is the creator of the Monarch Butterfly Project at the Morton Freshman Center in Cicero, Illinois. After teaching biology for 15 years, he moved into a new role as the science curriculum coordinator and science coach, and he runs a summer garden program that involves around 50 students working June and July to maintain and improve the Monarch gardens. He loves science, nature, and conservation. And then lastly, we have Rayna Lambert joining us today. She is 18 years old and has been fascinated by monarch butterflies since she was 5 years old when she watched her first butterfly emerge from its chrysalis. The butterfly wasn't the only thing that hatched that day, her curiosity did too. Ever since then, she has been advocating for monarch conservation and striving to protect this remarkable species. She has delivered speeches on monarch butterflies to local officials and at the Ohio State Fair. As a Girl Scout for her Gold Award project, she is working on a children's picture book titled Mission Monarch, which will be published very soon. I just want to give a huge shout out to our speakers today. This is our first youth-led projects, and so I'm really excited to have them joining us here today. I also want to give them a huge shout out before they will all be graduating this year, so they are taking their time to join us today and talk about their work and their passions for monarch conservation. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and Citlalli and Vanessa.
All right, everybody hear me now?
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Alyssa. All right, so this is the picture of our students and some of our partners from last summer and the summer garden program that was mentioned in the introduction. So this takes place in Cicero, Illinois. It's the Morton Freshman Center. And once students leave the Morton Freshman Center, they go to a different building, Morton East High School, which is where Citlalli and Vanessa just graduated from, or they're going to have their ceremony soon. So go ahead and give them a little bit more of those congratulations and rounds of applause in the chats because they deserve it. So yes, my name is Kevin O'Toole. I'm the creator of this Monarch Butterfly Project, and I run the summer garden program, as was mentioned. Citlalli and Vanessa have been two of my students from freshman year that have stayed with me all throughout their high school career. Their last summer, they were exceptional leaders in my summer garden program, and I really cannot stress how much they have meant to this program. So this is a picture of the garden recently, but I'm going to start off kind of, ooh, what happened here? Something weird with this font here. I don't know what happened there, but okay, so I'm just going to go to this for now. By the end of, so what happened is at the end of 2017 school year, I knew 2016, 2017, something like kind of clicked in my brain and in the biology curriculum that I've been working on was just based on multiple choice tests that rewarded memorization. There were step-by-step labs with no room for curiosity. There's no inquiry, no problem solving, and no connection to real world issues. And most importantly, my students weren't connecting science to the world around them, especially climate change and the loss of biodiversity, or really environmental justice, which I just started discussing. So in the summer of 2017, I sat at my kitchen table and I just started hammering out this new curriculum that really focused on monarch butterfly citizen science. And that's where this project took place. And I'll remember the first time I saw this graph, I thought this is going to be the centerpiece of the curriculum. And this is from the 2016 numbers, so you'll see it ends at 2016. And it really kind of struck me that the population, the eastern monarch butterfly, almost went, the population that migrates, that we all are familiar with in the Chicagoland area, was almost extinct in 2013 and 2014. And I had this big, giant plot of grass outside of our school. And I thought to myself, what could we do with this? This is a huge opportunity for our students to transform this land into a monarch butterfly habitat. I actually measured all of the grass on the school's property, and it came out to be over 100,000 square feet. Me and my students actually did this, and then we asked for 5,000 square feet from the administration to build the garden. And around that was an NGSS line curriculum. So if you're not familiar with the NGSS, it's Next Generation Science Standards. It's really teaching students how to do science and engineering as would be done in the real world. So this project actually started on pencil and paper. They were all put into teams. There's 30 different teams. Each team had to make a design that would be to scale, and they were going to design a monarch butterfly habitat. So this was 1 centimeter equals 1 foot. That's what she's measuring. So their pathways needed to be 3 feet wide. They had a budget. They had to research what plants needed to be in their garden. And then we had a big school-wide vote, and this was the winning design in the early spring of 2018. So we took this design and we laid it out, and we invited the community to help us build it. Some of this was built in class by students, and then we had this huge community planting event that was over 200 people came out on a Saturday morning. It was really chilly. I remember that day, but we put about 2,000 native plants into the ground that day. And then that summer, it was pretty much just me and my mom taking care of this. And I knew something needed to change because we could not keep up with the weeding and the watering. And that's when I started to form the summer garden program in the following summer. I'm going to fast forward to 2022 just to give you some of the accomplishments that this project, and mainly my students and I were able to kind of reach internationally, also with a lot of help from Mike Rizzo and the U.S. Forest Service and some of other partners that I've met along the way. We actually got our garden project as a permanent feature in the Smithsonian in 2018 in Washington, D.C. You can go see it today if you go into the Deep Time exhibit. And then we had it photographed in 2022 by National Geographic. And then we also had, we gave a presentation at the United Nations International Day of Forests. We were supposed to go to New York City to present, but COVID hit the week before we got on the plane, and then we had to present virtually the following year. 2023, we had a $50,000 grant awarded from the Museum of Science and Industry, and what we did that year is we made, again, a huge design competition. This time it was with over 500 students, and they made 3D models, and the winning designs all these designs were just incredible. And this was the winning design, and all those species are labeled on the side. All the students had to figure out exactly what species would go where. But then the kids in the summer garden program had to pretty much build it as was. All those kids, their year ended and they just left. And then the kids who joined my summer program had to really get to work and start to put the plants in the ground and build the pathways. And over a lot of hours of work, it started to come together. And now you can see where it's at more recently. So I'm just going to kind of show you some pictures. This is also now a part of the biology curriculum. So every freshman student that enters our district has to go outside and study ecology in our native garden. And they learn about the native species, and they will also, we have a big pond that got put in with the grant money. So you can see the students are actually doing citizen science projects here. They're monitoring for monarch larva monitoring project. And we've put tags on monarchs. We actually test them for OE if we ever raised them in the classroom, we would make sure that they were free of parasites. We didn't want to release any into the wild. Students were super excited. Sometimes we would raise them and then check for parasites. Other times we would just catch them in the wild just to see if they had them. And we actually got some pretty interesting data on that was pretty consistent with the data that was published. About 10% of the monarchs had OE. So overall, I'm just going to show you really, this is what it could still look like today if we did nothing. But now we have a garden that's over 15,000 square feet. Actually, two separate gardens. And then students are using this constantly as part of their curriculum. So overall, we have 15,000 square feet of habitat. We have over 100 different, we actually put in 15,000 native plants, individual plants, which Citlalli and Vanessa will talk to, and over 100 different species. We've planted over 65 trees with over 20 different species, thousands of hours of work. And we also got a lot of federal money from the U.S. Forest Service. And that actually totals up to $92,879. I've been able to pay students a lot of stipends. We also had EFTA, Environment for the Americas, have $25,000. And then the Morton Arboretum, and there are many other partners that I didn't get to mention here, but that funding is in danger of being cut off, and that's currently something that I'm navigating with. But I'm going to turn this over to Citlalli and Vanessa now. And I'm going to just kind of mention that these are two of our all these students in this picture are leaders. Vanessa and Citlalli are still here. Some of these have graduated and moved on. So they're going to go ahead and talk about their experience now.
So what first got us interested in the summer garden program? The first thing was definitely adjusting after the pandemic hit, because with COVID-19, the year before we entered our freshman year, everything was online. No one was really interacting. It was a lot of people were not being as social as they used to be. So we were actually a part of Mr. O'Toole's freshman class in biology. And when he talked about this garden program, we kind of took that as an initiative to finally go out and socialize again, and finally be able to be outside without masks and not having to worry about COVID-19 so much, and just kind of get in touch with our community.
We were also interested in the stipend and the credit we could get, because this program would give us credit going to our high school years. And this credit also allowed me to have a later start with school, and it let Vanessa leave early from school, which was a very a small thing that we're grateful for. Also, we were direct students from Mr. O'Toole, and we were able to see his passion for this program, and that passion kind of rubbed off on us.
Yeah.
So I feel like that really helped. Also, we had a cultural connection with the garden, in the sense that since we're both Mexican Americans, monarch butterflies are really intertwined with the culture of Mexican culture, because they symbolize the ancestors of ours that have passed away who come and see us, and especially around Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. And they also symbolize so many different things, but the main point is that they're a big symbol for Mexican culture.
Okay, so how did our role in the garden program change from when we started to when we became a leader? So one of the big main things that was that changed was that before, people were in charge of us. We weren't really in charge of anything, but once we became a leader, we were in charge of bigger groups. It was usually around 20 to 30 students. And instead of us being told what to do, we were now telling them what to do. So that was also kind of a really hard adjustment, because we had to learn kind of what were our priorities, how to kind of teach students what to do. And that was a really big change from being told what to do and then telling other people what to do.
We also had to demonstrate these tasks and how to use the tools correctly, because we had trouble with it. So we had to come in together, talk about it, and be if we're having trouble, these students are also going to have trouble. So we would set time aside, and we would try them out ourselves, and then show the students how to properly do this to ensure that everyone in the program didn't get hurt, we're safe while doing this, so we could all have fun while learning.
Yeah, so one of the things that we demonstrated was how to plant correctly, because a lot of things that we realized were that when people were planting, they would either do it too high or too low. So that's kind of something that we had to do, as well as kind of organize, since we got a lot of plants. So we had to organize them by either species or color or height, and then just kind of figure out where to place them in the garden. So that was also kind of a big change.
One thing that we realized we were making a difference is when we had a conference 2 summers ago, when we had people from all different parts of the world come in and look at the garden, and they were able to talk about their experiences and what they're doing to create a change, and what we're doing to create a change. And this just showed us that, like, even though like it's our community, this is impacting everyone. People are getting inspiration from this garden. People are trying to implement what we did to their areas, like, of the world. We have people coming from different part of Asia, Africa, and it really showed you how like big this is.
Yeah, like during that conference too, one of the big things that stuck with me is that a lot of people in the Asian countries, they said like they didn't have like any green spaces from where they were from. So they were really intrigued when they came to see our garden and they were seeing all these plants and all these species. That's kind of when it clicked for me that not everybody is as fortunate as we are to be able to be a part of this like big project, to be able to give back to nature. And it was just really fun to see because they were so passionate. They were so happy seeing like all the species that we had because they didn't have it back home.
And even in a smaller scale, we had families come into the area, walk around, look at the plants, bond with their family, like their students with their children who were students at the school. They were able to explain to their parents like what was happening here, teaching older generations in our community of our mission, basically.
Okay, so specific tests that we did in the garden to support monarchs and other pollinators, it was really only 2 things. We planted a lot of native species. Like we said before, we were getting like cartons and cartons of a lot of these native plants that we had to figure out what species they were, and we had to figure out there was no like invasive weeds or anything in those plants, as well as making sure there was no ticks or any animals that we didn't want in there. So that was like one of the big things that we did, was just planting the native species and making sure that they were actually good to put in the ground.
We also taught the students what species to take out and which ones to plant. They were confused because some plants look really similar, but like you could tell the difference between the confidence of the student from the beginning to the end with these invasive species. Like before, they would come to us every time, be like, can we take this out? Can we take this out? Which I also did in the beginning of like my starting. But at the end, like you could tell they knew which ones were invasive, which really showed us like, yeah, this is creating a change in the students as well.
Yeah, like one of the biggest native species that we got out was thistle. And Mr. Tu was actually telling us right now that thistle is making a big comeback to the garden. So it's just really making sure we're taking care of that, helped support the monarchs and other pollinators.
We also, for certain things to help monarch and the biodiversity, we planted a lot of milkweed because those are the plants that the caterpillars of milkweed will feed on, and that's the only plant they will. So a lot of times during the summer, we would see monarch eggs on the leaves, and they were so tiny that we had to go to one of our teachers and be like, hey, like, do you know what this is? And he would show us, like, these are monarch eggs. And he showed us how to see if there was actually like still, if it was alive or not alive. If it was like translucent, I think it wasn't. But also these plants provide a shelter and food for these native insects.
Yeah. And then because like Mr. O'Toole was saying, this garden was kind of meant to be this habitat for monarchs, because the monarchs during migration, they actually pass by Illinois. So having this garden and having these native plants and maintaining them kind of helped fuel the monarchs during migration, because it kind of gave them a place to stay if they kind of needed to build up their energy or anything like that.
It's very important to plant like different types of milkweed and nectar-filled plants, because like I was saying, milkweed is very inviting to these monarchs. That's where they lay their eggs, that's where they will breed, that's where they'll seek shelter. And these nectar-rich plants are the ones that provide pollen, nectar to the pollinators, for them to be able to keep going, not only like surviving, but also to help support these other plants around them.
And it's also really important to put these in like urban areas or school gardens, because a lot of these like nectar plants, they're very colorful and they bring a lot of pop of color, which is very different to a lot of urban areas, because it's all cities, it's all buildings, it's like not really much green spaces. So not only does it make it beautiful, but it also helps the pollinators around. If they ever need to find plants to, help them pollinate or get nectar from, they have those plants. So not only does it help like keep the appealing of like nature, but it also helps the animals and the ecosystem around it. Okay, understanding the big picture. So during this whole project, I kind of realized that conservation takes a lot of dedication. Like it wasn't just something that we could just say, let's do this, and just like go on with it with nothing. Like we had to it was hard to take initiative, having to find a group of people to do this with, as well as funding or promoting the cause, as well as like just organizing this whole thing. Because as you can see, like in these pictures, we started off with like almost nothing. We got a lot of stuff, and then slowly we started to build on it. So conservation isn't this thing, unfortunately, that we can just jump into. It's just kind of something that takes time, but it's definitely reward.
I found that it was kind of like a reality check
Yeah.
where you're like, oh, like we'll be planting plants, but then you get hit with like the reality of it, where you have to maintain the garden. This planting, like it seems like really like easy, but it's hard work. Like you have to maintain it, you have to plant it, you have to figure out how to plant it. Because at first, I will be honest, I wasn't fully planting these plants, right? Like Vanessa was saying, some people were planting them too high, too low. I definitely was one of those people, but you know what? I figured it out. We got it done. So definitely a reality check as well.
Okay, so why does biodiversity matter in a place where, like our school and our community? One of the big things that matters is that Morton Freshman Center, the place that we did it, is surrounded by factories. So there's literally everywhere you would go, we kind of like filled with smoke, or like it wouldn't be a nice scenery place at all. So having this garden near the Morton Freshman Center was kind of like a clean slate, because you could finally see green spaces. And it was just kind of trying to cover up all the bad factories that were kind of surrounding the school area with kids who like kind of helped with that.
In the first picture, right behind that garden, it's a factory. Like now it's no longer in use, right?
Yeah.
But it was still there. It was still working there for a long time, right next to a school of students who, you know, are still growing, which is not helpful for their health, which is why Cicero has a high population of people who have like asthma, which is why we need more green spaces, which is why this garden is so important, because we need more areas where it's helping not only the environment, but also the people there and the children, you know, everyone.
Yeah. It's also important because of Cicero's weather patterns. Like here it rains a lot, and when it rains, it like floods. So having like this biodiversity and having actual native plants instead of like normal lawn grass, it actually helps with the flooding because they actually take in the water instead of like leaving it out. So like as you can see on the picture on the right, like when we first started this garden, when the plants weren't that grown, our paths were flooding. So that kind of shows a picture of like it floods a lot here. So having biodiversity and actual native plants anywhere kind of helps with that issue.
Okay, understanding the bigger picture, the message that we're trying to give out is that helping to protect these monarch butterflies and other native species isn't as hard as it may seem. Like you don't need a big project like we did. Even planting like nectar-rich plants to help these monarchs make their path to migration, everything is so important. So you don't have to have like this huge amount of funding to be able to help even just a little bit.
Yeah, I would also like to say that like don't be discouraged, because I definitely thought when we were starting this program that the minute it turned summer, I would see all these monarchs. That's not how it is. So don't be discouraged by that. Like even if you're doing it and you don't see progress right away, there is going to be progress later. So
for leadership and what it was like to mentor younger students, it was really difficult and scary because we were so used to having people to go to, but then we realized like, wow, they're gonna go to us when they need help. And you know what, we had to communicate between the leaders because where one person was struggling, the other people were like really confident of them. So I went to other leaders who were there like one more year than me, and I would talk to them like, hey, like I don't know what to do, and they would help me, which helped me help the younger students.
it definitely became easier as time went on because we became more confident in ourselves and with our knowledge. And it definitely felt rewarding, like being able to teach these people. And it was nice because they're young, so they're nice. So like even if we made mistakes, like we would kind of all learn together and we would laugh about it. But yeah, it was definitely hard at first, but it got way easier as time went on.
So with our internship with Environment for the America, we learned how to, like we were saying, we got more confidence in a leadership role to be able to help other people. We also learned how to like make documents and like present our progress, sorry.
Yeah, like so one of the things that was important to me was highlighting the importance of documentation, because I'm not gonna lie, it's hard for me to take pictures of like before and afters, but during this this internship it was like it got into my head that I have to do this because it shows our progress a lot more than just kind of seeing it in person. Because if you have before and after pictures, you can actually see like the real impact that you're having and how the garden does change over time. And then, yeah, with increasing confidence in leadership role, because we were interns, we kind of had to take more of a role in like teaching, especially since Mr. O'Toole was more away and it was more like us leading the project. So definitely being an intern kind of taught me to be more confident in myself, even if I was like unsure of some things, I still had people to rely
on. This definitely helped me like to see what I want to do in the future, because not only did it make me more made me want to grow my own native garden, and I have created my own native garden. This also taught me which field I want to go into for college. This made me decide I wanted to go into biotechnology, into a sciencey route. And before, I was so undetermined for college and I was so scared. But this project really like helped me be like, no, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And then I'm still unsure of what I want to do career-wise, but this project definitely showed me that not to rely on other people to create change, but to be the one creating the change. Because if we're always waiting for other people to start something, it's never gonna start. So like Mr. O'Toole, he didn't wait to start it. Once he saw he needed something to change, he started it himself. So that's kind of what this program taught me. So what's one thing that we wish people knew about monarchs or native gardens? Definitely that native plants are both beneficial to wildlife and to humans, because wildlife and humans, they interact with each other so much. Like, yeah. And then also that native gardens require less maintenance, because a lot of times people, when they make their own gardens and they don't have native plants, it's definitely really hard to maintain them. So having native gardens is definitely good for you because it's less maintenance and for the environment.
Like as Vanessa was saying, the reason why they require less maintenance is because these native plants are designed for your area. So they're able to withhold like the weather changes, like Chicago and Cicero, for example. Our weather is so horrible. Like it's either hot one day, horrible next week. Like last week it was really hot. This week, why is it stormy now?
Yeah.
But you know, like our native garden, like it's able to withstand these changes. And it helps with flooding because the root systems of these native plants are so strong. They're able to get all this leftover water, take it, which causes less erosion and helps literally everyone involved, because this erosion will go into our water sources, which hurts us more. So we should just plant more native plants.
And then just that monarchs are vital pollinators, because if we didn't have monarchs, it would kind of change like the whole kind of cycle for like every other pollinators, because they're a main source. So it's important to protect them while we still can.
If I had to describe this in like one sentence, it would be very impactful, because it helped me figure out what I want to do for the future. And like, not only that, it created such meaningful relationships with other people. I became extra close with friends I already had and made me find new friendships.
Yeah, so mine is kind of like the same thing. This is definitely a memorable experience I will never forget, just because I kind of learned how to be more in touch with my community. And I've definitely gained closer relationships because of this whole program. Yeah.
Thank you for hearing us out.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And now you know why I chose them to be leaders. Thank you for all those wonderful emojis.
Thank you.
And now we're going to turn it over to Rayna, I believe.
Yes, thank you so much, Kevin and Citlalli and Vanessa. And Rayna, if you want to try and share your screen.
I will try. You might have to bear with me for a little bit because I'm not sure if my internet will decide to glitch out or not. So my camera might not be on, but I'm going to share my screen so you can see my presentation. How does that look? Can you guys see it?
Looks great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Rayna Lambert. I am 18 years old, and I've been working with monarch butterflies for over 13 years now. I'm going to start everything off with a story about why I'm so interested in conservation. When I was 5, I was out garage sailing with my parents, and we met a retired school teacher. There was a small glass terrarium, and it had a stick, and it had this green orb. And I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. The retired teacher handed me the terrarium, and she said that I could take it home with me. I wasn't sure what to expect from it until about a week later, when I watched the monarch butterfly emerge from its chrysalis. My parents and I were actually late to a wedding because we were watching it hatch. But the butterfly wasn't the only thing that hatched that day. Witnessing its emergence into the world changed my perspective on so many things. And ever since that day, I've been advocating for monarch conservation and striving to protect this remarkable species. I did not start engaging with others with pollinator conservation until I was about 10 years old. But in the past few years, I've been fortunate enough to meet and talk with people from the U.S. Forestry Service, like Mike Rizzo. He's a wonderful guy. Monarch Joint Venture, and people from different states about monarch butterflies and why they matter to not only us, but the environment. To jump into the next topic of discussion, I have various projects that I've started and mostly completed by myself. I've had the honor of delivering speeches at the Ohio State Fair on 2 different occasions. Once in 2019, I was 12 at the time. I delivered a speech on monarch butterflies and their migration patterns. And once again, I went back in 2024 when I was 17, and I discussed basic butterfly biology, threats to monarch caterpillars and butterflies, and conservation efforts on both individual and national levels. For my 2024 speech, I was awarded Outstanding of the Day, which is a special award given to only the top 5% of presenters. Additionally, I have spoken at the Trumbull County Commissioners meetings several times to discuss restricting summer mowing and to leave more habitat for monarchs and other migratory insects. Following these meetings, I was featured on the local news and in newspapers for my efforts and bringing attention to the butterflies. I created a slogan, "Mow one pass, make them last." The idea behind this slogan came from a few years back when I was riding home from the county fair, and I had just been telling my parents about the abundance of milkweed. But when we turned onto my road, I saw that the mowing crews had taken 3 passes using their tractors and blades and mowed the majority of the milkweed and native habitat down. It wasn't just on my road either. Many of the other roads in the county had received the exact same treatment. I researched a few things on the Ohio Department of Transportation website, ODOT, and I read that they have special mowing procedures in place that coincide with not only monarch migration patterns, but the patterns for other migratory insects. I found this to be pretty incredible, and that's what inspired me to head to the county commissioners meetings, which I did so for 2 years. Ultimately, sharing my standpoint with the commissioners and the engineers was effective, but not as much as I'd hoped. The mowing crews still mow 1 or 2 passes down the roadside, but now they don't mow as often or as dramatically as they once did. I have also volunteered with the Trumbull County STEM Days using the 4-H program, and a few years back, I took a terrarium with some caterpillars and chrysalids in it. I delivered an impromptu lesson on monarch butterflies to the kids at the program, and everyone seemed to enjoy listening. Some of them even came up to me afterwards to learn more about the monarchs and how they could help them. And in past years, namely when I was in 6th and 7th grade, one of my teachers requested that I could come in and present information on monarch butterflies to their classroom kids. I gladly agreed each time. I had a slideshow prepared, and I talked to the underclassmen about the monarch life cycle, their migration patterns, and predators. Afterwards, I led them through a little craft and opened the floor for discussion. Believe it or not, the kids were very invested and asked lots of questions. This past year at the Trumbull County Fair, not only did I deliver a speech about monarch butterflies, I set up an educational booth in the county block building. There, I decorated it with all sorts of monarch decorations and little figures. On the walls, I set up photos of things I'd done with butterflies and some materials that I'd gotten from Monarch Joint Venture. I set up a small table in the booth and I put out 2 buckets. One bucket had milkweed seeds that I had packaged, and the other had pollinator handouts. The booths were judged at the end of the week, and I ended up winning 2nd place. And over the course of the week, I had to restock both buckets quite frequently, and I ended up passing out over 100 milkweed seed packets. And with the, oh, here's another slide. I have lots of goats at home. We actually have 65 of them, but I've been able to bring my little caprine companions along with me to help promote monarch butterfly conservation. I've dressed them up in little costumes, as you can see here. And when I take them places, I'll hand out little milkweed seed packets and I'll tell people what they can do to help the pollinators. And with the help of my Gold Award project advisor, I learned about Monarch Joint Venture and their North American Monarch Institute program, also known as NAMI, that was being hosted at Lakeland Community College here in Ohio. I attended for the first time in 2024, and I learned a lot of valuable information. I also gained some resources that I know will be helpful to me as I finish my Girl Scout Gold Award. And this past spring semester, I took a sociology course at Hiram College. As it turns out, I gained a lot more out of this course than I thought I would. Our big final project for the course was to write a 6,000-word research paper on a social problem of our choice. The professor tried a new approach this year and allowed us to work on our reports for the full 12-week semester. I titled my report Pollinator Loss, a Conservation Crisis, and chose to frame the loss of pollinators as a social problem and address why we should all take action. The research paper was broken down into 3 main sections: the social problem addressed, explained, and defined. Over the course of those 12 weeks, I gained insightful knowledge, opened my eyes to other pollinators beyond just butterflies. As another component of our report, we had to conduct a case study, and we evaluated the organization based on their efforts and how well they were addressing the problem that we had chosen. I researched Monarch Joint Venture, and I was able to collaborate with Jenna Tots. She was a big help to me when I was writing this section, so a special thank you to her as well. I would like to highlight some of the most striking statistics that I came across while I was researching. But before I get to that, I had to identify 3 main factors that threatened not just monarchs, but all pollinators, and those were climate change, habitat loss, and pest and insecticide usage. This is just an example when I researched monarch and bee statistics. What I found that the numbers for monarchs, as some of us may know, have dwindled by a lot. And bee colonies have recently been making a little bit of a comeback, but they're still threatened as well. As far as statistics go, these were what I highlighted in my sociology report. 1, the food industry is heavily impacted due to pollinator loss. We rely on agriculture to survive. 1/3 of all food that we consume is pollinated, and 35% of all crops are pollinated around the world. $24 billion are generated annually from pollinated crops. And of course, less crops means less revenue. Less biodiversity means that we have reduced ecosystem health, and there's also a decrease in human health and the quality of life attributed to that. There's a lower availability of nutritious foods, which leads to an increase in obesity rates and an increase in other diseases. There's also the loss of human life. Nearly 500,000 early deaths can be traced back to a lack of nutritious and pollinated food consumption. This also frames pollinator loss in the public eye more than just a social problem. I also had to make an infographic for this class, and I'd like to share it with you all. I identified 3 root causes of pollinator loss, as I mentioned earlier: habitat loss, climate change, and pesticide usage. We were later asked to explain our thought process behind what we'd made. I researched pollinator loss, so I figured that illustrating the flower petals falling off of the plants might be a nice touch. Additionally, I wanted the pollinators to stand out, so I tried to make the background a lot less vibrant, and I was very happy with the result. I've also done quite a few projects through Girl Scouts. I've been a Girl Scout for 12 years, and it's been a wonderful organization to be a part of. One of the possibilities available in this organization is their trio of awards, the Bronze, Silver, and Gold Awards. The Bronze Award is offered to juniors in 4th and 5th grade who have completed a journey, which is essentially a workbook with additional activities and a community service take action project. The Bronze Award requires at least 20 hours of work to complete. The Silver Award is open to cadets in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade who have completed a cadet journey. The requirement for this one is 50 hours. back in 2019, I laid out the plan for my Girl Scout Silver Award. And for my Silver Award, I chose to make enclosures for monarch butterflies that I was rearing at the time. But I also went around to different classrooms and schools, and I talked about the importance of monarch butterflies and did some of my speeches through that. Now, on the other hand, the Girl Scout Gold Award requires much more work and a lot more persistence. It's available to seniors and ambassadors who are in high school. You must have completed 2 journeys or have earned your Silver Award and completed 1 journey for the senior and ambassador level. To begin, you must register for online training modules. After you complete those, you'll be tasked with outlining your project and preparing a proposal for your local Girl Scout Gold Award Council. After you schedule an interview, the council will review your project, and if you aren't given the go-ahead, you modify your proposal and schedule another interview. When your proposal is approved, you can begin tracking your 80 hours of work. My Gold Award has been a long, hard process, just like Monarch migration. It's a process of drafting ideas, sending emails, spending hours researching on the computer, buying supplies, staying focused long enough to work through illustrations, and many other tedious little tasks. Still, I'm not yet finished, although I have spent over 90 hours working on my Gold Award book thus far. Another component of the Gold Award is sustainability. So, as decided by the council, a book alone is not sustainable. Therefore, I needed another plan. In addition to creating my book, I will be hosting several programs over the duration of this summer for young children. As of now, I have a program scheduled at the James H. Barrow Field Station in Hiram, Ohio, and at the Bristol Public Library in Bristolville, Ohio. Now, please excuse my clock. It wants to have a few words. And here I wanted to share with you all 3 of my favorite illustrations I've made. This one, it required quite a lot of effort, and I'm very proud of how the bird looks. But I knew that it was important for young children to understand that nature is not what you see in the movies. Not everybody gets along. There's the predator-prey relationships, and there's also parasites. So being able to put this in a format so children can learn is very important. Here's another page where I talk about migration and different threats to monarchs as they make their way south. And here, once again, children can understand that while there are quite a few monarchs that do make it down there, not all of them will. So I wanted to combine that with the vivid illustrations to still catch their attention. And this one here, it was hard with all of the little details and the flowers, but I had to find different things that were important, like the sunflowers, the lavender, the butterfly weed, and the milkweed, because those are very important things to put in a pollinator garden. And for the text on this page, it gives some kids a little bit of reassurance and empowerment because they know, oh, well, I can help with this too. And then the kids learn that it's not just a problem for the grown-ups and the adults in their lives. They can actually have a say in what goes on. And if anything, I want to say that knowledge is the cure for ignorance. And I'm very glad that I'm able to make a difference by teaching others and inspiring people along the way. And just like how I conclude my book, I'd like to encourage you all to be like the butterfly. Don't be afraid to spread your wings and try new things. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Rayna. Thank you guys so much. Thank all of you for sharing your knowledge and about your work and your experiences with monarch and pollinator conservation and habitat conservation. We do have some time for questions, and just you can keep putting your questions into the Q&A, so please feel free to continue to do that. We'll take a little bit of time to answer some of those, and any questions that we don't get to today, we'll follow up with our group here, our group of speakers, and we'll send those out to them and get some answers from those folks if we don't get through everything today. So I guess we'll start with well, Rayna, I'll start with you since you just finished up. What has been the hardest part about your Gold Awards so far?
Well, if I'm being honest, the modules, honestly, it was hard for me to sit through all of them and watch them, but it's been a huge learning curve for me. I'm a traditional artist, so I like my pens, my pencils. So switching to digital was certainly interesting. And I like to draw realistically. And I know that a lot of children's books tend to take more of a cartoony. I don't want that to sound bad, but it's not as realistic because kids like to look at things that are fun and colorful and really pretty. So I had to combine both my love of realism and trying to keep the kids' attention with bright colors. And I'm I'm glad that I stuck with it for this long with my project. And I know that I'll be very proud when it's finally done.
That's awesome. Yeah, it looks really great. Your illustrations are really great. It's interesting because both of you are kind of both of these projects, like I noticed in the garden that you guys made too, you guys have a lot of art kind of illustrations amongst there too. There's such a good connection between kind of nature and art. So it's really fun to see those combinations, Rayna, in your book, and then Vanessa and Citlalli, like within the garden, what that looks like. All right, so Vanessa and Citlalli, did you guys create any resources to help future students with kind of like that planting depth, those challenges that you kind of come across? Or is it more just kind of that institutional knowledge that you guys, everybody is kind of learning from one another over time? What does that kind of look like?
I feel like it was sort of a mix for two because in our internship we had to make webinars, or we had to write, like, put a picture and then write a whole description of what we done that week to like not only show like people from our school but also everyone else who is internshiping, everyone who just wants more research on the topic itself.
Yeah, but I definitely think it was kind of more like we were all learning together. So we didn't really have to pass on any knowledge because we were all learning the same things at the same time.
Nice. You had a nice little kind of like supportive group amongst you, which is really great. That's awesome. I had this is a really good question. It's related to your garden. How do you deal with rabbits and other animals? They said it looks like a bunny buffet. What does that look like for you guys?
It was a bunny buffet.
Yes.
The first time we expanded the garden for, I think it was summer 2023.
Yeah.
We had like these tiny little plants and we had bunnies coming in. You would see them nibbling their little bites. And at some point, we would like try put fencing around it, and we did. But like,
They would go under it.
yeah, at some point you just have to be like, okay, like,
Yeah, but really we just try to conquer it with
Yeah.
fencing with I think it's chicken fence, right?
yeah.
But we try to do it as best as we can. But yeah, bunnies are smart, so they can either hop or
If
they
they
can go
want it, they'll get it.
Yeah.
So
It's a good environment for, that just means that you've made a great environment for many different species, even though it is also a bunny buffet. It is supporting so many things. So that's amazing.
I will add one
Um,
thing is we have a Cooper's hawk that loves the garden and will hunt in front of the students and pick up its prey and eat it right in front of them. And we even had a bald eagle fly over the garden recently. So there's plenty of predators that are now chasing away these rabbits.
You're seeing the full circle of the food web within your environment, which is amazing. All right, so for Rayna, you've done a lot of public speaking now. Were you nervous to present to your county commissioners?
Yes and no. I knew what I wanted to say, and I knew that I had a lot of purpose behind what I wanted to say. But at the same time, they're public officials, and to a young kid, it seems very intimidating. But they were all very welcoming and very nice people. So after I started talking, I suppose all the worries just kind of melted away because I knew I was talking about something I'm passionate about, and that just made it all the better.
That's awesome. I'm just going to give you all a huge shout out today. You guys are fantastic public speakers. So if it's not in your future, you're great at it. So just keep it in mind. You're very good engaging public speakers. So please keep that in mind in your futures as well. How How this is back to Vanessa and Citlalli. How much time was involved to maintain the gardens over the summer? Like, what does that look like?
A lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. We were going Monday through Friday for like at least 3 hours, sometimes even more. So it was definitely a lot of work.
It was a lot. Not even just like taking it out. Also, you know, we had to teach other students how to do it. So I feel like between those two, it took up like a good chunk of our time at the garden, to, you know, to take out these invasive plants because that they would grow at such a fast rate
Yes.
that you felt like you were never catching up, even though you were. But like mentally, when you were tired and it's like 100 degrees, like
Mhm.
it got a little too much at some point.
Yeah, and then not only that, we also had to take like some time at home, kind of with the leaders to kind of plan out what we had to do the next day.
Yeah.
So that was also took a big chunk of our time, but it was worth it.
You know, we had some of us coming in earlier, some of us
Yeah.
staying later just to be able to like get some of it done. And we did.
Mhm.
I feel like we did a good job at being able to maintain it as well as we did with the amount of like work we done with the
Mhm.
people we had. So
That's awesome. Yeah. It's no you that's a huge you have transformed a huge space. So that is time consuming and it is a process and it looks beautiful and obviously is supporting so many different things. So, you know, once again, hats off to you guys. This is kind of a question for all of you guys. So take the time, but Brooke had said you guys are all such self-starters, which is so true. What kind of support would you have wanted from the community at the beginning in all of your different types of projects? So for either of you can kind of take it away.
I think definitely more, I guess, volunteer help. Because I will say, for our program, because it was both volunteer and like stipend initiative, once a lot of people realized that they weren't gonna get paid, they stopped helping us, like in general. So I think just having more, I guess, hands-on would definitely have been helpful, especially like Mr. O'Toole when he was saying when he first started out, it was just him and his mom taking care of the garden. So having that support of like people coming in and taking their own time, even like it didn't have to be every day, maybe like once a week, that would have definitely helped take a load off of us.
And Rayna, how about you?
I suppose for me at the beginning, I wish that the community would have taken me more seriously than they did. Because at first it seemed like I was a younger kid. We just had goals, but I didn't really seem like I had the means to continue through with it. But since then, I've received a lot of support from the community, and I'm glad I've stuck with it.
I know that can be a huge challenge, and I think you guys taking the time today to just show how much effort you have put into your work and how much effort that you have put into your passions and what that means to you just really speaks a lot to how much other generations, younger generations, throughout generations can really support one another in all of their efforts. So again, I just really want to say a shout out to you guys. Mr. O'Toole, Kevin, there's a question directed towards you. And so has the enthusiasm continued with new students adding each year to keep everything up?
Yeah, I think so. I just looked at my roster for the summer program. It's at 33 right now. So without the federal funding, it's lower than it had been in the past. Like I would have 100 kids signed up in some years, and then they would, some of them will go on vacation and you lose, 20 or 30 of them by the end of July. But having 33 kids at this point, the garden really just needs basic maintenance. The huge amount of planting that we've done, all the tree watering. I don't think they talked enough about how much effort it took to keep 60 trees alive. Each kid would actually like dump 3 buckets of water on those trees a couple days a week, and the trees are looking absolutely amazing. So we're gonna have like a nice big forest surrounding this kind of prairie in a few years. But I think the garden itself is attractive now to students. They see in the flyer, summer garden program, and they just want to join. And like Vanessa and Citlalli talked about, it's an opportunity to get some credit for graduation, and then you get to go outside with your friends and just get out of the house. It's an hour and a half Monday through Friday. So I think that it's going to maintain it, and you know, I'm not too worried about any enthusiasm slipping.
And just a quick follow-up, if there, I know your funding is in flux there, are there any ways for individuals to help support the program that you guys have?
We always welcome volunteers. If there's people in the area, I've got a lot of people reach out to me that just say, hey, do you need a hand with weeding, or can I get volunteer hours? Some students will often ask me, like, even if they're not in my program for National Honor Society, I've had students get volunteer hours for that. I've had lots of organizations offer, like master gardeners, they'll come out once in a while, or we have groups like the Wild Ones. They've come out and done, you know, plantings with us. There's a local company that does native plant sales, provides a ton of plants for us too. So it's just, you know, connecting with me, and then I can certainly tell people, yeah, we need a lot of thistle removed in this section of the garden. We have a map with numbered sections. I will tell students, like, focus on section 23, and you know, and here's the plant you need to rip out.
Awesome, thank you. Well, we are right at the 3 o'clock hour. Well, 3 o'clock Eastern time if you are where I am. 2 o'clock Central time if you're in Central or somewhere else. I just want to say thank you again. Thank you to those that have attended. Thank you for your questions. Thank you to Rayna and Vanessa and Citlalli, and of course, Kevin. You guys are an inspiration. It is incredible the work that you have done. I'm so glad that we were able to connect through this webinar, and we all collectively from MJV, and I'm sure the participants on this call, wish you the best of luck as you all are graduating. So congratulations again. You know, if you ever need anything, please reach out to Monarch Joint Venture. We would love to support you guys in your work. So thank you guys so much, and thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys.
Thank you.